Hey guys, welcome back to an update video on my Shotshell revolver. If you haven't watched the original video where I kind of introduced the concept, the basic idea is to take this WinGun revolver that's CO2 powered that shoots these shells that it comes with at about 500 feet per second. The idea is to replicate that shell but put in more BBs, so every time it fires it's shooting 5-6 BBs at a time. I think I have now perfected the design. At this point I have a shell that can shoot 5 BBs. It fits into the cylinder like it's supposed to, and it could even be ejected with the ejector rod when need be. So it functions exactly like the original ones, but with way more capacity and way more function and usability in an actual game. So how this works is the real star of this thing is this PEX pipe, which I got at Home Depot for about $2, and it's about 5 feet of it, which will last you many shells. I've used a lot of it experimenting, and I've already made probably 6 or 7 well done complete shells that I could use in a game and function perfectly and do what I want them to do. This pipe is perfect because its inner diameter is a 1/4 inch, which conveniently enough is right about 6 millimeters. So you can see a BB fits in there just tight enough to stay in place, but not so tight that it can be pushed out with pressure. And the outer diameter is, I believe, 3/8 of an inch, which is very close to the diameter of this chamber, which is, I believe, a replica of a 357 Magnum. So as you can see, it fits nicely in there, not much wobble, and doesn't really get stuck. So when I first started, the idea was to take this tubing, cut it to the right length, and that would house the BBs. So it would look something like this, and it would fit right in, and it works really well. The only problem is when you go to eject the shell, obviously this does nothing because there's nothing to grab onto. So you'd have to get a tool like an Allen wrench or something and push it out, which is not the end of the world, but in the middle of a game, if you need to reload, it's going to be kind of tough getting all 6 shells out without dropping them everywhere and having a tool just for that. So that didn't work for me. So that was the kind of the first step of the way, and the nice thing is I got the results I wanted as far as the FPS, the grouping, the consistency, the accuracy. So that was great. So the next step was to take that but add a washer on the end here to give something for the ejector rod piece to grab onto, and that worked fairly well. As you can see, it does what it needs to do. And the only problem with this was it was really tough to glue this metal piece to this PEX pipe. It's really resistant to glues, and even I tried an epoxy and none of that really worked well. Also, this silver paint, or this gold paint I added at the end here just to give a more realistic look, tends to peel off really easy. Again, doesn't bond really well with this plastic. So these look nice and they kind of work, but sometimes you'll go to eject them and the washer will just come clean off. So then I had a thought, what if I took a real 357 Magnum casing and did something with that? So I bought a few of these. As you can see, they do fit in here. Real nice, and they work with when you go to eject them. But they're a little short and they're a little wide on the inside. You can't just put a BB in there, it'll just bounce in there and it's hard to retain it. So the first thing I do is I take one of these empty unprimed casings and I drill out the opening bigger. Now there's already an opening in there, but it's not big enough for much gas to get in, and if you leave it as is, you'll be getting, I believe, about low 200 feet per second readouts, which might be okay for some, but I like it to be somewhere in the 300s or close to 300 just to give it a little bit more range, because this gun as it comes has no hop up, so whatever the BBs are coming out at, they're just going to go and then they're going to fall. There's not going to be that up hop like you get with a rifle or something. Hold it with the pliers and drill in with this bit, which I believe it's a 5/32 metal bit designed to drill through metal. So that gives me a bigger opening, which leads to about a 300 foot per second readout when this thing is done, right around there. So that's step one. Then I leave it right in that jig. I take my Dremel tool and I cut whatever is protruding out off, and that's about, like I said, about 1/2 inch, and I end up with this shape here. Then I clean it up with the Dremel tool just to give it a nice, clean, even edge. And this part is done. It's got a bigger opening and it's got a nice shortened case. Then I move on to the rest of the building of the rest of the shell. So I take this PEX pipe and I use a cartridge I already have made as a guide. Mark it up, cut it off using these pipe cutters, PEX pipe cutters. They're designed for obviously something much bigger, but they work well on this to give you a nice even cut. You could probably do this with an X-Acto, or I've even done it with a chop saw, but to get that clean cut and somewhat even cut, those work really well. So after that, I take it to the drill press. I've wrapped the drill bit with some tape to give it a little more grip. I slide it up, and then on the line I have marked previously with a marker here, I begin kind of shaving down material, and I've been using this file. You can use sandpaper, pretty much anything rough that will get it off. And I keep going and checking with the calipers once in a while to get it down to the thickness where the case can fit over this, because as it comes it's about the same diameter, so it needs to be shaved down. Also, it gives you a much more point of contact, so the case stays on there really well. So I keep doing that till I get it to the point where I can slide this over. Once that's done, I merge them together, and then I start test fitting it into the cylinder. Now, another thing that helps these get a better seal and get a better output is to bring the front of the shell to a point. For that, I'm just using a typical sharpener, and I just keep filing it down, and as you can see, when it's done right, it will fit right to the very end here, and that makes contact with the barrel, and you have very little loss of gas around here. And when I'm happy with it, I'll test fire it. It tends to be around 300 feet per second with 5 BBs. If that's the case, then I'll dab a little bit of glue on here, merge them together, maybe clamp it if it's going on really tight, and that's it. Once it's done, the nice thing is you could use these speed loaders to house the shells. You can see I got 6 of them in here, and it works really well, just like any speed loader would. Line it up, release them, and off you go. There you go, you're loaded. When you're done, boom, reload, same thing. So that's the beauty of using the cases, actual 357 Magnum cases, is that you can use 357 Magnum speed loaders. So everything works like it's supposed to. You can load quickly, unload quickly, and you have a gun that can shoot 5 BBs from 6 chambers. It's a pretty powerful airsoft gun at this point, and it's at 300 feet per second, so it's usable in pretty much any field. I really can't wait to try this thing out in an actual game. I think it'll be pretty feared once somebody gets hit with it a couple times. So stay tuned. If I'm able to use this in a game, if the refs are cool and they don't have a problem with my homemade shells, then there'll be a video of me using this gun in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this project of me converting this high-powered WinGun into something that's usable, effective, and just straight up fun to use on Coke cans. Be sure to subscribe, check out my other videos, check out the first part of this video where I kind of first come up on this concept and explain it to you. And check out the gameplay. Hopefully there'll be gameplay of this gun in the future. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you on the next one.